Hello there, Ben Bowers, a spirit specialist, and I am here today to talk to you about a new release from Indri, the Indian malt whisky producer. This is part of their core range. So I have already reviewed Trini, the Diwali 2024 release, because the 25 is about to come out fairly soon at the time of recording, because we are not far off Diwali, but it won't be hitting the UK shores probably until early 2026. I've also been lucky enough to do the 11-year-old Founders Reserve. Can't remember if I've done the Drew. If I have or not, I'm not sure. But basically the core range at the moment is Trini, which is the trinity of 3 different cask types, Drew, which is the cask strength ex-bourbon cask, and now Agneya, which is the lightly peated sherry and bourbon cask that is now part of their core range. So very much looking forward to this, because the Diwali was the first one that I tried that had a little bit of a smoky element, and I thought it was absolutely amazing. So my hopes were high when I was informed that this was turning up. I was very kindly sent a sample from Indri themselves, and before I tell you what it tastes like and my thoughts on it, let me first give you some background information about the Indri distillery.
Born in 1927, Pandit Kedar Nath Sharma founded Kedar Nath Sons in 1953 as a liquor distribution business that would quickly own all the liquor contracts in undivided Punjab. Inspired by the hustle and bustle of London's Piccadilly Circus, the company opened a restaurant named Piccadilly in Chandigarh in 1967, followed by a movie theatre in 1972 and the first of what would be a Piccadilly hotel chain in 1975. When a sugar mill and distillery was purchased in Patalia, Punjab in 1993, Piccadilly Agro Industries was founded as the spirits producing brand of the company, with a second distillery in the small village of Indri in Haryana following in 1994. Located 150 miles north of Delhi and near the base of the Himalayas, the word Indri is also a derivation of the Sanskrit word Indris, which denotes the 5 senses. India is the biggest consumer of whiskey in the world, but the vast majority of whiskey made in India is actually produced with molasses, making it essentially a rum and meaning it can't be sold outside of Asia as whiskey. However, Indri is the 4th Indian brand to release single malt whiskies in Europe, following Amrut, Rampur and Paul John. And as with the latter, Indri uses indigenous 6-row barley, which has been grown for hundreds of years in Rajasthan. It produces a smaller yield, but arguably more depth of flavour. 90% of their output is unpeated, with one peated run taking place every 3 months. Production of single malt whisky at Indri first started in 2012 and was eventually overseen by Surinder Kumar, who is considered by many to be the forefather of Indian single malt whisky, after serving as master distiller and blender at Amrut from 2006 to 2014. Graham Bowie, who previously worked with Angus Dundee and was the first distillery manager for Ardnamurchan, joined the business in 2020 to be involved with the final blending of the initial release and now runs distillery operations. A blended whisky named Whistler was launched in 2020, with Indri Single Malt launching in 2021 and Kamikara Rum in 2022.
Agneya was launched in the UK in August 2025 and is the 3rd core single malt whisky release from Indri. The name is derived from the Sanskrit word meaning belonging to fire, signifying the introduction of a lightly peated element to the spirit. Maturation takes place in both ex-bourbon and ex-Oloroso sherry casks, and the whisky is bottled with no age statement at an ABV of 46%. Okay, so as with the Trini, you do get it in this, I suppose you call it a cloth bag, although I think it's made out of paper or something like that. But you do get it in the bag, the same as the Trini, which doesn't come with the Drew because it's in a fancy box. And the packaging is very similar, basically a black version of what the Trini looks like. I don't actually have any Trini in stock, so it's not like I can show you side by side. It's on the way though. So this peated element. Now, I am not sure where the peat comes from. And the reason I say that is because, and I'm going to try very, very hard while I'm reviewing this, not to mention Paul John edits in particular. And I tell you now, I'm going to fail. Because Paul John, I used to work with quite closely. When I was working for Gordon MacPhail prior to opening the shop, which is going to be 5 years in a couple of weeks' time, which is absolutely frightening. Gordon MacPhail were, when they were distributing brands, were the UK distributors for Paul John. So if any of you out there have ever come across Craig Watson or the legend that is Shilton Almeida, who is now with Milk and Honey, they were the Paul John account managers, reps, sales managers, ambassadors, whatever you want. They did everything for the UK. So Paul John had the Brilliance, Edited and Bold. So Brilliance was unpeated, Edited was lightly peated, and Bold was heavily peated. And then they had their other limited editions. Great brand to work for, really, really good whiskies. And they were kind of, at the time, it was Paul John, it was Rampur, and it was Amrut, and that was it. And Paul John were head and shoulders above everybody else. So when Indri came on board, I was already comparing it to Paul John. You know, when the Trini came out, I was like, right, well, Paul John was really, really good. Let's see what Indri's like. And actually, the Trini, I think, is like way better than Brilliance, which was decent. You know, it was good. Edited was probably my favourite out of the lot. So obviously, we have a lightly peated version of an Indri bottling coming out. My natural inclination is to instantly compare it to Edited. Now, Paul John were bringing peat across from Scotland because, as the guys told me, essentially the peat in the local area was kind of offering this like burnt flavour profile. So they were bringing peat across from the Highlands of Scotland to work with the peated versions that they were doing, because they wanted that complexity that Scottish peat, again, with its kind of history and its reputation and everything like that, was going for. I've asked the question, not had a reply, tried to do a bit of research, couldn't really find anything concrete. So where the peat is coming from, I don't know. I don't know if this is Indian peat that's being used to dry the barley, or whether they are actually importing peat from somewhere else to go through the process. I don't know, not quite sure. So that's really the only thing that's missing from this. The other bit that I haven't been able to find out yet is what the proportion is of these Oloroso sherry casks and these ex-bourbon casks. I don't know what the percentage is in terms of one or the other. In terms of age, again, no age statement. I'm guessing probably around 5 years. I'm not going to go into that conversation about aging in India, climate, all of that lot. It's kind of covered in various videos that I've done in the past. It's why Indian whiskey and a lot of the whiskies that come out from these really hot climates don't use age statements, because there is still this perception in the market, particularly not in the market, but there is a perception, there is a perception in the whiskey market in the main that if you put a number on it, it has to be over 10, because there is the perception in the market that the perception of the consumer is that whiskey under 10 isn't proper whiskey, and all of this lot. It's an historical thing. It's kind of the way that it is at the moment. I get it. I understand why. It would be nice to see more numbers on younger bottlings, but I think it's going to be a brave brand to make a point of that and really get things kick-started. So we don't have an age statement on it, but based on previous experience, based on dealing with Indian whiskies previously, that sort of thing, I'm guessing it's about 5 years old-ish. Don't know. So, Ben, you're waffling again. Why don't you tell me what it tastes like? Okay, stop harassing me. So, 92 proof, 46% ABV. Agneya, so originated, deriving from fire, basically. So lightly peated, not heavily peated. Does this mean we're going to find a heavily peated version coming out? Maybe. I don't know. It'd be interesting if they did an equivalent of Paul John again, if they did the equivalent of the Brilliance Edited in Bold, and we had Indri, Agneya, and then whatever the Sanskrit word is for Inferno or something like that. I don't know. So let's see. On the nose, we've got a lovely sweetness up front. A lot of that bourbon cask seems to be pushing through. There is a bit of a dark fruit, but we do have kind of that lovely vanilla-y sweetness coming through. But it is offset with a touch of sort of raisiny, but it's like, we're getting into like bread and butter pudding, custardy type feel going on here. There is a hint of smokiness, but it's very much in the background. Fruit is up front. Now, as I found with the other Indri releases, the new make spirit seems to really pull through a tropical fruit note, and that is there, definitely. There is a custardy note, but it's almost like it's kind of got a little bit of mango in. It's like a mango custard. We're not talking mango lassi, but it's got this kind of like soft, sweet, tropical fruit, custardy type feel to it. And then a little bit of charring on top. So it's kind of a bread and butter pudding, raisins in it, but the custard has been flavoured ever so slightly with like mango, more than anything else, but definite tropical fruit, like mango papaya type custard. And then you get a little bit of that kind of charring from the edge of the bread and the charred raisins on the top when you've cooked it in the oven or under a salamander grill type thing. Really, really nice nose. Not overpowering. Really well balanced. There's soft fruit, there's vanilla, There's this gentle waft of smoke going through. It's a nice, it's not quite bonfire. It's soft, it's a slightly sweet, it's not quite bonfire, it's not quite barbecue, it's not medicinal, it's not like Isla or anything like that. It's a really, really soft that's just lifting those fruity flavors. It's there, but it's not obvious. I think if you were kind of like, you really, really didn't like smoky whiskies, this would be like, oh, I get it, I really do get it. But it's not powerful by any stretch of the imagination. And let's go to the palate. And actually, what's on the nose really does follow through. You do get that lovely mouthfeel on this as well. That sort of custardy note really coats the mouth. You get warm, dark fruits, a little bit of plum, a little bit of damson in there. Really creamy texture on there. And the smoke is not quite enveloping. The smoke is there when it's in the mid palate. And it's as you take it back, as you swallow, that's when the wave of smoke starts to follow through. Again, it's soft, it's slightly sweet, it's not quite barbecue, it's not quite bonfire. It's slightly drying, but not in a derogatory sense. As you roll it around your mouth, if you almost like press the liquid against the roof of your mouth, you do get this lovely silky vanilla cream. Dark fruits. Again, I'm getting overriding bread and butter pudding. The tropical fruit note is less so. That arrives again more at the finish. And it's almost like the smoke element, that sweet smoke element, accentuates that tropical fruit note on there. It's really, really good. It's really, really good. There's a lot going on here. It's one that you can return to and kind of get new dimensions coming through. It's the opposite of one note. I think the smoke element is really, really well balanced. It's not overpowered by that soft fruitiness. On the flip side, it doesn't dominate the palate at all. Everything intertwines, everything weaves together absolutely beautifully. I'm really, really impressed with this. It's been a long time since I've had edited, and I was hoping that I might have had some in my garage if I had any left over from my G&M days, like a bit of a sample bottle or anything like that. I've got nothing. I remember really liking edited. I really, really like this. Do I say it's better? I can't say because I haven't got the two side by side. If I can dig some out, I may well do another video, or at least maybe put some comments in the bottom of this video if I get the chance to try the two side by side. But there is bags going on here. Again, really exemplifies that tropical fruit note that Indri seems to have throughout. It's not as good as the Diwali 2024. That was absolutely incredible. That's one of my like all-timers. It was so good. But this is definitely heading in that direction. It's, you know, a really, really good, it'll be a good introduction to peated whiskey for some people. I think the smoky note might be still a little bit too much for some that are not like really don't like peated whiskey, and I get that. I get people that have tried some whiskies that I would have said is unpeated and they're still getting some kind of smokiness. But it's a really, really good whiskey. And I think the Trini, because of the power of the cask makeup, that intensity of the fruitiness that comes through, I have tried it with some people. I've put it on a couple of tastings where it's almost been a little bit too intense. This is a little bit more restrained. I think it's almost like they've pulled back the intensity of that tropical fruit character because you've got this added dimension of the smoke. They've done a brilliant job in terms of balancing it, and actually it makes it arguably more approachable as an example of Indian whiskey than Trini does. I think Trini is so fruity, so intense that for some people it's going to be a little bit overbearing. I think if you turned around and said, look, this is an Indian single malt whiskey, and a few people will go, what? How does that? I thought whiskey was Scotch and that's it. And it's got this smoky element, but the smoky element is heightening the flavors. It's drawing out the finish. It's adding a great deal of complexity. It's not being completely overbearing for somebody to then turn around and go, oh, well, it's not as good as Scotch peated whiskey. It's not, it's not peaty enough, blah, blah, blah. This kind of like is an incredibly approachable whiskey for people that like whiskey, really appreciate peated whiskies, maybe don't want to go too overboard with it, but actually kind of have some friends around that dipping their toe into the water and want to see what peated whiskey is like, but you don't want to give them a Lefroy 10 or anything like that. it's a belter. I'm continually so impressed with what Indri are putting out. Clearly, there's a lot of thought and care and attention that's being put into the liquid. And yeah, it's an absolute belter. So it's price point wise, it's £5 more than the Trini. So at the moment, the Trini, I need to double check this because I think I've got the wrong price. No, I haven't. So the Trini is £44.99 and the Agneya at the moment is £49.99. So I think perfectly reasonable in terms of where we are in terms of the market. I think it's a really good price point. I think Paul Johns are coming in at about the same, if not slightly more, since they got taken over by Sazerac. But yeah, it's a belter. They're doing really, really well. So if you've got some whiskey snob that you know, with friends or family, and you've got somebody that's like, oh, only Scotch is the only whiskey worth drinking, just pour some of this in a glass. Don't tell them where it's from. Let them try it. Let them go, oh, yes, that's very nice. Oh, I think, well, I don't think it's an Islay. I think it might be a peated Speyside or a Highlander. And then you just whack that out and you go, actually, mate, it's Indian. Get over yourself. Yeah, it's great stuff. Really, really good. And I'm very, very intrigued to see if they do bring out a heavily peated version. It might be a little bit overbearing. Who knows? We'll see. But for now, as part of their core range, I think it is a very good fit and I highly recommend it. So if you do want to get a bottle, and stock is available, this is part of their core range, so it will be available ongoing. Head to the website, www.spiritspecialist.com. What was I going to say then? Oh yeah, my brain just completely froze. Shipping is available. Jesus. Shipping's available through the UK, not outside the UK, I'm afraid. We've got Brexit issues and red tape and customs charges and all sorts. It's just not worth it. It's too much of a pain in the ass. But if you live in the UK, you will be able to get shipping of this and anything else that's available on the website that I have in stock, obviously. Love it. Really, really good. Indri continues to knock it out of the park. That is me done. I shall see you at the next video. Cheers.